don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the podcast that no one asked for. My name is Guy, and no one asked for this. This special episode, I'm going to be joined by Chad, Social Sports MVP Bearden, and we're going to talk about two sports series / sporting events that were terrifying for everyone but us to watch. Chad is a fan of the Dolphins and the Cardinals, and I myself, of course, am a fan of the Redskins and Nationals. We agreed to do this podcast before we knew who was going to come out on top of either event, and lucky for me, the Redskins won the toilet bowl with the Dolphins, and the Nationals eliminated the Cardinals in the National League Championship Series. Chad, how are you?
Sad, but okay.
Did you ever in a million years think that you would win 0 of those games?
No, not really. I thought we'd at least get a couple. I didn't think we would get swept. I just can't believe it.
As a DC sports fan, I expected to be on this podcast with you angry for every moment for all the terrible things that happened.
I mean, I know that I've heard other DC sports fans mention that, especially like with the Redskins, that, you guys do well in the first half, and then the second half, no adjustments are made, and then you lose the game, just like week 1 with Philly. So in game 4, when you guys scored 7 runs in the first, and then we started coming back with a solo shot, and then we got 3 runs the next inning, I had hope, but then it didn't turn out well.
And we will get to that, but let's start with the Dolphins and Redskins game on Sunday because no one wants to talk about that for more than 30 seconds. What was your impression of the Dolphins' performance on Sunday?
I was actually working during the game, so I didn't have to put up with the crappy play by either team. I did see the final play, which honestly, I think with that play call, it truly shows that they are trying to tank.
Oh, for sure. And it should be mentioned that I was at the game and I did record that moment live and put it on Facebook. And before it happened, we were sitting with both Dolphins and Redskins fans, and we all said if the Dolphins score, they're probably going to go for 2 and drop some awful play that makes it look like they're not tanking when they are. And that's exactly what happened.
I actually had to look up who called the play. I have not been following too much because it's very frustrating this season. But at least we don't have any hope unlike you guys do.
And if it makes you feel better, you can always just point to that 17-0 banner and remember that it was the Redskins you beat in that Super Bowl.
That is true.
Moving on to the more interesting conversation, which is the Nationals besting the Cardinals in the NLCS. If you had any, what were your most fond moments of that series?
I can say that for the Cardinals, there wasn't really much. There was no offense. Our offense didn't show up. But I can also appreciate what the Nats did, like the Game 1 catch by Zimmerman that kept the no-hitter going. I can respect that. I am Nats fan second.
Yeah, that catch was amazing. It was weird to watch them take no-hitters in the first 2 games, like 5-6 innings deep. Not what I was looking for. It was also frightening the first 3 innings of those games, which were both 0-0, because it was no guarantee that someone wasn't going to step up and get good contact, and then suddenly we were losing, even though we had been working on a no-hitter, especially with Sanchez. Any Nats fan that says they were confident in his start going into it is lying.
Postseason will bring out, people who you don't expect. I mean, for me, like 2011 with David Freese. David Freese was never a superstar, but in the World Series and I guess the NLCS, he was the NLCS MVP and World Series MVP and was very clutch in both situations.
If you had to say, what was your most memorable moment of the Nats-Cardinals series?
I go back to the Zimmerman play. Like, that was just, I think that just took everything, or at least for me, rooting for the Cardinals in Game 1. Old man Zimmerman, it was a good play.
Yeah, I'd say my most memorable moment was a series of moments. It's when I noticed that no one could hit or no one knew what to do with Strasburg's off-speed stuff in Game 3. To have all his strikeouts be on off-speed pitches, I had never seen him do that.
I read some article that said the Nationals were going to look to throw more breaking stuff just because the Cardinals had trouble hitting it. So that could have been like maybe a reason that Strasburg did that.
It makes sense. I love it when a plan comes together.
I didn't this time.
So let's give out an award to a Cardinals player. If you had to give out a bum or a boss on the Cardinals, either in the organization or on the field, what would you give out, and who would it go to?
Can I give it to two players?
Sure.
Okay, then I'm going to go with Paul Goldschmidt, which I think is midway through the game 4. He was 0 for 6 for his last 6 with 6 strikeouts. It's like, dude, like, what are you doing? And then Marcell Ozuna as well. He just couldn't do anything this series. And they were both huge during the Atlanta Braves series. So I'm going to go with those two because those are our biggest bats and middle of the lineup.
Also, Ozuna gave up the fielding error that scored a couple runs that broke the game open. I think that was game 2.
That is true. Yeah, that's a ball he should have had.
Yeah, and I didn't look it up. I don't know because we don't do research on this podcast. I don't know if they scored it an error or a hit, but either way, it was in his glove.
Right. And that would have ended the inning with no runs.
Yeah, tough moment.
Extremely tough.
Who would you give your most valuable performer to for the series?
I would give it to Anthony Rendon just because he was constantly hitting and then he made several plays in the outfield as well.
Yeah,
So
Tony Two Bags is amazing. I love him to death.
Yeah. The Nats better sign him. I mean, he can come to St. Louis.
I'm sure he could. So, Astros, Nationals, who you got?
The Nats have a great pitching rotation. However, I think that was inflated just because of how bad the Cardinals' offense is. I really would like for the Nationals to win the World Series. However, I think the Astros will probably take it in 6.
And what about if it's the Yankees? Who you got? Yankees versus Nationals.
That's not going to happen. But if I have to, Nationals in 4.
Nonsense. Never forget that it was the Cardinals that let the Boston Red Sox win in 2004.
Very true.
Okay, Chad, since you are the social sports MVP, what do you recommend for playing social sports in the winter?
I would go number 1 with flag football. I'll be playing it. It is cold, but don't be a wuss. Just get out there and play. Other than that, dodgeball. I hosted that this past January, and a lot of people that played, they had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun hosting. It was more social than I thought it would be. I thought it would be filled with douchebags and whatnot, but it was actually pretty fun.
And how long do you think until you retire from social sports?
Never. I will be in a body bag on the field.
All right, Chad, thank you for joining me today. Sorry about the way your Cardinals season had to end. Also, sorry that the Dolphins are still getting the number 1 pick instead of the Redskins like it should be, but there's no justice in the universe. Is there anything you want to give a special shout out to?
Sarcastically, the Cardinals' offense.
I would also like to give a special shout out to them for not showing up at all to any of the games. And I would like to thank the internet for joining us again. And if you were thinking that this podcast was a waste of your time, remember, no one asked for this.